Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the BPM Change Management PRR Review Monthly Meeting. My name is Hannah Pearson, representing the California ISO Customer Readiness, and I'll be facilitating today's web conference. As a reminder, today's call is being recorded. These recordings are for informational and convenience purposes only, and any related transcripts should not be reprinted without the ISO's permission. And also, these monthly calls are structured to stimulate an honest dialogue and engage different perspectives. And while we welcome comments and questions, please remember to keep comments professional and respectful. We will be taking questions throughout the call. If you're connected to audio through the WebEx platform, please open the participant panel and use the raise hand icon located on the center of the WebEx screen to enter the question in the queue. If you're not logged into WebEx and dialed in on the phone, you can dial *3 to enter the queue. Please introduce yourself before asking your questions, and if you need any technical assistance during the call, please send a chat message to the event producer. The purpose of today's meeting is to discuss the proposed revision requests that are in the initial or recommendation stage of the process. We will be discussing 4 PRRs today, and they are all in the initial stage, and all PRRs were submitted by the ISO. The purpose of BPMs is to set forth business practices that implement the ISO tariff. The ISO conducts a yearly policy initiative roadmap process to consider and rank initiatives. Policy changes submitted through the PRR process will be referred to the policy initiative roadmap process. And each subject area in the BPM is based on enabling language in the ISO tariff. The PRR process cannot be used to introduce changes that are not supported by existing tariff authorities. The first BPM we're covering is Reliability Requirements, PRR 1635, 2026 Availability Assessment Hours. It is in the initial stage, and Abdul will be covering this slide, so I will hand it off to Abdul.
Thank you, Hannah, and good morning, everyone. This PRR is our annual part of our annual process of updating the availability assessment hours for the following year. So this PRR is basically to indicate the availability assessment hours for 2026, as previously discussed in the FLEX RA study earlier this year. That was conducted earlier this year, stakeholdered. So that one of the outcomes of that study is the setting the availability assessment hours for the following year. In this case, is 2026. So the hours are being added to the BPM. And they would be effective for 2026, like I said. And we have not received any initial comments, and the initial comment period expired on September 17th. So the next step is to go to the recommendations comments. Any questions? All right, thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you. The next BPM will be Generator Interconnection and Deliverability Allocation Procedures, PRR 1636, updates related to implementing the shared network upgrade topic from the Interconnection Process Enhancements 2023 Track 2 Stakeholder Initiative. It is in the initial stage, and Matthew will be covering the slide, so I'll hand it off to Matthew.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Susan, for your comments. We received one round of comments here, or one set of interconnection customer stakeholder comments. I thought I can just go through kind of the items that I flagged. Susan, thank you for the corrections to the capitalization of ENP. I went through and the agreement, the BPM now reflects those changes. There were kind of 3 substantive items that I tracked. One was your comment on, LSA's position on the tariff language reading as projects can execute either an ENP or a GIA to satisfy the requirement. The CAISO's position continues to be that projects that have an executed, or projects that are eligible to execute a GIA must execute a GIA. and if there are any timing implications specific to that GIA that, you know, we could handle any downstream milestone impacts within the GIA negotiation itself. So in other words, if a project would have otherwise been eligible for a later tender date, you know, the milestones for the non-shared third posting and notice to proceed can be discussed during GIA negotiations to receive, you know, a similar treatment that the project would have otherwise had it not been pulled forward as part of the shared network upgrade requirement. So I don't know, would you like me to pause after each, Susan, and maybe get your comments? And we may need to unmute Susan.
Hi, this is Susan. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Susan. Coming in clear on my end.
Well, I don't, okay, now it says the host has unmuted me. Am I still unmuted?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So I don't mind whichever way you want to do it. But since you've already unmuted me, I guess we can do this. We've had situations where the GIA has been tendered, and then the shared network upgrade thing came up, and projects normally have at least 120 days to negotiate a GIA before they have to, you know, under the tariff timelines. That obviously that can be extended by mutual agreement. But we've had projects that have been tendered GIAs and then had to, were forced basically to sign those GIAs, or I guess, you know, requested to be filed unexecuted, which is a bit of a black hole, within less time than the tariff allows. So our main point here was that I appreciate what you're saying about the rest of the milestones. I have a question about that. But the first main point that we made was that there should not, that allowed timeline for negotiation shouldn't be shortened for purposes of implementing this tariff provision, because the other tariff provision says they have at least 120 days. So that's, I could ask that question, then I'll get to my second question. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The GIA negotiation period of 120 days should not be shortened, and we've been working through a couple instances with PTOs where that may have been the case.
Yes.
However, I will say, you know, we haven't sent a deemed withdrawn notice for those projects. It's just a miscommunication we had with the PTOs. So
okay, well,
that's, you know, we
part of
do
our
not
changes.
intend
Go ahead. Sorry.
on shortchanging or preempting the 120 calendar day negotiation period.
Okay, well, part of the changes that we suggested in there was that the execution date would have to be the later of 120 days or whatever the otherwise applicable date would be for the shared network upgrade, so they would at least have 120 days. So I hope you'll consider that particular clarification then, if that's really your intent.
Yes, I will kind of take that back and see if I could propose some language that makes it clearer.
Okay.
Or refer back out to the appropriate tariff section.
Okay, and it's also your clarification on the milestones is very helpful. That would mean, for example, if, you know, PG&E has recently had a practice where projects have to provide the third posting something like 120 days after GIA execution, or in some cases 90 days. So what you're saying, it sounds like, is that third posting for the other upgrades shouldn't necessarily be accelerated just because a project has to be tendered a GIA earlier than it might otherwise be required to have, just for this purpose.
Yeah, and so that, you know, that would have to happen in the specific GIA negotiation. I don't think that the CAISO and the BPM can commit the PTOs to taking a certain approach there. However, we would generally be supportive of that approach in discussion in the negotiations between the PTO, the CAISO, and the interconnection customer.
Would it be
but
possible to have the CAISO state an intent or something in the BPM saying that the other, even though the GIA execution has to, or the GIA has to be tendered early, that the milestones don't necessarily, I mean, putting in something that maybe leaves some flexibility, but just clarifying that doesn't mean that the rest of the milestones need to be accelerated.
I could take that back. Just off the top of my head, the instances where we have a project that has a required GIA tender date that is further out than, you know, the immediate time frame are so rare. That I'm not sure it warrants putting something in the BPM that in itself would be a bit wishy-washy, if that makes sense. But I can take it back to the team.
Yeah, if you could consider that, I would really appreciate it. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Let me let you go on to the next few points. Then I know you have 2 other ones to address.
Sure. And then just generally, there were some. Well, I guess to back up to the first comment that you had about defining shared network upgrade. So we don't have a parallel definition in Appendix A currently. So I would be hesitant to introduce a definition for shared network upgrade or shorthand that lives in the BPM only. Sorry, just had a WebEx message pop through, but it didn't apply to me. So yeah, I would be hesitant to just introduce a shorthand that lives solely in the BPM for this particular topic, just because of the opportunity that it would create for confusion, you know, at the sake of efficient drafting. So that's just a minor point. And then on to kind of the second chunk of your edits or proposed. You had some proposed refinements to the example calculations for the different buckets that customers can fall into with respect to, you know, their current posting status and the calculation of their required shared network upgrade posting. And the comments that we posted to the PRR, I just had some minor clarifications. If you could take a look at those and see if you think those are in line with what you're thinking, I wouldn't be opposed to making those changes.
Okay, I didn't see that there was another. Is there another version posted? Because I didn't see a response to our comments. But is there another
I think
version
we
of the
posted
actual
it
comments?
shortly before the meeting.
Okay,
so
all right. Because
yeah.
I checked literally this morning, but not later this
Yeah.
morning. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take a look.
Okay. Great. Okay, so that's one other chunk. And then a minor item was in the section where we're talking about the treatment of projects withdrawing and being able to look at upgrades on a discrete upgrade basis. I think the construction of the language as it stands currently is more palatable, or I think it's more illustrative than perhaps changing it to say project status based on posting. Because when we are looking at the stage of each discrete network upgrade, we're really looking at whether the PTO has commenced construction activities on that upgrade. So to reframe that as the posting stage of each project doesn't really reflect kind of the key milestone that we are evaluating against. And I'm sorry, my voice is...
Oh, that's okay. The thing we were trying to do with that last language where we had actually recommend inserting like another little section to the BPM was to determine if a project makes the shared network upgrade posting and then they withdraw. There are a couple of different elements of that are not really clear in the BPM. One of them is if you make the posting and then you withdraw, what happens to your posting? And then the other thing is what happens to your the fact that you've made payments up to that point and what is or
Right.
is not refundable. So I do understand what you're saying about the fact that the refundability question in general is determined by whether the construction activities have started. But the question of what would be refundable if the construction activities have not started, or if they have started but payments have been made, I think that clarification would be
Yeah.
really, really helpful. So if there's any way for you to, I understood about the not the stage of posting, but the construction activities, demarcation. But if there's any way to get that distinguish the refundability and lack of it to be clarified with postings versus payments, that would really be helpful.
Yeah. So, and I saw the insertion of that, 8.11.3.2, and it's a mechanism that we have been reviewing with the PTOs to determine, how they can accommodate it, since we haven't had an instance thus far where we've gone that route, that's to my knowledge, and the kind of the footprint of what was identified in cluster 14 and the number of the projects that are now in this situation is making it so that it is much more likely to apply.
Yes, I've gotten a lot more questions about it since this whole
right.
effort was started, which is what was led to the proposal of the BPM language for it.
Right. So at this point in this PRR, I can't commit to explicitly outlining, or not just really speaking to it without understanding where we are with the PTOs on that discussion. It is something that the CAISO, as we get clarification, are open to adding in a near-term future PRR. But for this particular PRR 1636, I think it is a bit more of not a novel issue, but a related but secondary issue that the CAISO can commit to continuing to run to ground with PTOs, and we may not need a PRR if it's just if we feel like the language in the tariff compels us to act in a certain way as we investigate with PTOs. So it's a bit of still on the pending list of nailing down the treatment, but I don't think it would be appropriate in this PRR.
Okay, well, since I should give you a heads up because it has become such a prominent issue, we are preparing a few on behalf of LSA, a few clarifying PRRs to submit. And if we can't get it in here, it'll probably come in back to you again as another PRR, because we have people.
Fair.
Okay, all right, because we've had people ask that question explicitly about the GIA, which is the section it's based on, and not gotten a clear answer and been very concerned about that. So we do feel that the clarification is necessary, given the lack of a clear answer on the particular tariff provision itself. So yeah, if you'll probably see it again if it's not included here. Just wanted to give you a heads up on that.
Understood.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your consideration on these.
And thanks for your comments, Susan. We appreciate them.
Okay, and then the version that was posted this morning, that has your consideration so far of the changes we've proposed, because there's one more round of comment, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And when are the comments due next time?
I'll pull that back to Nicole here. Next round of comments.
I am looking. So October comment deadline closes on October 14th at 11:59 p.m.
11:59 p.m. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I know you specifically, Susan, were having issues logging in, and this goes for anybody on the call. If you're trying to submit any comments and you're having trouble with the tool, please email the BPM mailbox your comments, and we will get them posted for you.
Okay, and I did have somebody get back to me this morning. I do appreciate that. I've not been able to fix the problem yet, but we're working on it. So thanks for your help on that.
All right. Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, Susan. And that's all I had on PRR 1636.
Awesome. Thank you, Matthew. The next BPM will be Credit Management and Market Clearing, PRR 1637. Various revisions related to Phase 1 of billing, payment, and credit enhancements as approved by FERC on January 21st or 28th, 25. It is in the initial stage, and Christina will be covering this slide. I'll pass it on to Christina.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Hannah mentioned, this is for PRR 1637. And the reason for this revision to our BPM for credit management and market clearing is to align the BPM with the tariff in regards to the various revisions related to the Phase 1 of the billing, payment, and credit enhancements back at the end of January earlier this year. There have been no initial comments, and that initial comment period did expire last week on the 17th, and our next steps will be to post out any recommendation comments. Are there any questions on PRR 1637? Okay, great. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Christina. The next BPM will be Generator Interconnection and Deliverability Allocation Procedures, PRR 1636. Subscriber participating transmission owner updates. It is in the initial stage, and Riddy will be covering this slide. We do have a question from Bonnie. Is it regarding the previous PRR or this one?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Ah, good. So I was trying to review comments earlier, and I could not find the redlining for section 6.9.2.3 paren B and paren that was referenced in the PRR. Could you help me out with a page number of the BPM? I mean, it's, you know, the attachment includes the whole almost 200 pages of the BPM, but I just couldn't locate 6.9.2.3, or at least any redlining. I mean, I couldn't locate a section with that number in the attachment.
Bonnie, this is Christina Billing. Are you referring to the credit management BPM? I believe there's only a couple of edits in there to the very first section of our BPM, so I want to make sure we're getting the right person.
No, I thought we had moved on to 1638.
Okay, perfect. I wasn't
apologies.
sure, and I didn't want to dismiss your questions if they were related to credit, so I'll turn it back over to Hannah and the person responsible for 1638. Thanks, Bonnie.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead. I believe Riddy will be covering this slide.
Yeah, Bonnie, let me just check right now. I'm opening it up. But you were able to find the new section, right, Bonnie? It's just the 6.9.3b.
Hold on. Let me see. I'm trying to find. Okay, 6.9.2.3. Maybe it was operator error earlier. It's entirely possible. 6.9.2, the one that I'm looking at, which I think was your attachment, I see 6.9.2, and there's no redlining on it, and that is page 102 of the BPM. Am I looking at the...
Yeah, my apologies. I realized what happened. 2 and 9 got transposed. So it's 6.2.9.3. So I apologize. Okay. We'll update. Yeah, we'll update them.
3. Okay, I do see redlining on 6.9.3. Okay, so it's 6.9.3
No, it's
6.9.
6.2.9.3. So the
Okay,
9 and 2 got switched.
I see. Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, no, my apologies. Yeah, we'll fix that. But yeah, the red line is there.
Okay, and that was what, page 103. Okay. Okay, very good. I may have follow-up questions. I may have follow-up questions when I've digested this, but that takes care of me for now. Thank you.
So, Hannah, were there any other comments on this one?
I'm not seeing any other questions.
Okay, so, okay, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. The next BPM monthly meeting is scheduled for October 28th at 11 a.m. And if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email us at bpm_cm@kaiso.com. And that concludes our meeting for today. Thank you very much, everyone.
That concludes our conference. Thank you for using Intel or events. You may now disconnect.